Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video. In this video we're going to be looking at Kyle, who is a promo character upcoming. This is early look at what he's going to potentially be like. Sometimes it gets changed on release. And we'll look at his general look first. He's got a bird, like come on, he's got a hawk. He wins like top 5 of all time just because he's got a hawk. I'm pretty sure that's a hawk. I'm no bird expert, but I'm pretty sure that's a hawk. And he's got a mini crossbow. Like, is that a hand bow? I don't know what you would call that. He's geared up. They missed maybe an opportunity here where they could use the hawk as the weapon. And we don't get too many opportunities in terms of animals being used in the game. And it just seems that animals there for show, unfortunately. And when we compare it to, say, like Marlon and Rosie, as much as I think Rosie would have been a really good character to have by herself, at least she's the weapon, effectively, in the Marlon and Rosie duo. But anyway, we'll look at his stats. 2,219 attack, 3,081 defense, and 1,631 HP. His trait is alert, and his role is support. So, looking at the stats, generally speaking, you want the defense and the HP to be around the same number in terms of just like high amounts if you want that character to be a defensive character. These are really off. Like, this is really strange. Reminds me of Cal, basically, who had really low defense but really high HP. Really strange. If you want a character to be defensive, you need both those stats to be high. So you want to raise that HP as much as possible, just so he has some survivability. He will take less damage on his hits, but he hasn't got much HP anyway. So as much as he's taking reduced damage, in terms of percentage damage, he's probably taking around the same amount of damage as he would if he had 2.5k HP and 2.5k defense, for instance. But at least you have some power in increasing that HP with the weapon, leader skills, combat mods, that sort of thing. We'll look at his adrenaline rush though. Frenzy Shots is the name. It is a 58 AP cost rush, so nice and quick. I have said that pretty much all 6 stars, if they want them to be viable at all, have to kind of have 58 AP going forward, just so you can sacrifice AP on the weapon, because the majority of 6 stars are going to be used for attack teams now in terms of viability long term. 6 stars will sort of still be usable on attack teams long term, but on defense teams, they can be focused too much by an attack team, and trait damage, especially with these S-class damage numbers, it's just incredible. Like, I'm hitting S-class characters for 2k base damage, just basic attacks with my Priya. You know, it's incredible, and this is going to be trait damage. Alert characters are going to get wrecked. Now, his rush is actually kind of nice. He's got lots of control. Up to 3 enemies get confused and disarmed for 3 turns. All teammates recover from taunt, impair, and stun. So quite a heavy cleanse there. But the confuse is where it's interesting, because obviously there's not a lot of confuse resist around at the moment, because a lot of people will probably be running stun resist still, taunt resist, and they might be starting to phase in towards like daze resist or disarm resist on certain characters. Confuse kind of gone by the wayside, and that's where this guy can have a lot of impact. And the important thing is here is because he can get his rush every 2 turns, so it'll be attack, attack, rush, attack, attack, rush, and it's a 3-turn confuse. I'm pretty sure that means it's a lock. If there's 3 characters left, or even if there's 5, he'll be able to confuse 3 of them. 1 set of rush, and then when he gets his rush up again, he'll be able to confuse again, and they would have only just run out. So unless they get cleansed, there's going to be a couple of characters that could get locked out at that point. But he does no damage, no bleed, no maim, no percentage damage, so he is 100% a support character. You'll need damage dealers around this guy to get anything done. Move across to his active skill. It is Trauma. It has an initial cooldown of 3, cooldown of 3, and number of uses 5. Deal 1200 trauma to a line of enemies for 3 turns. And what Trauma does is anytime something is cleansed from that character, including Trauma itself, I believe, that character will receive 1200 damage. So let's say someone is bleeding, they're confused, and they also have Trauma. If they get a full cleanse, that'll be 3,600 damage they receive. If they only have the bleed cleansed, because someone only has like a recover bleed active skill, they'll only take 1,200 damage. Depending on how many things are cleansed, depends on how much damage they'll receive. I think in the test video that when this first came out, I think it was Jia Feng was the very first character. We got someone up to like 5 or 6, I think, and Trauma did a lot of damage there. It wasn't as high as this. I don't think Jia Feng's Trauma is as high as this. And I think it kind of needs to be this high to be really that useful, because there aren't that many full cleanse characters. And even if there aren't that many effects you can really even do on a character. Like, unless you've got a full bleed hemorrhage control team, which is, I mean, it's hard to come by. And most of the time, you wouldn't even need to do trauma damage with those sort of teams because you're just going to absolutely destroy them anyway. But if you are going to have trauma in any way, it has to be this sort of number, big numbers, especially against S-class characters. So far between his Adrenaline Rush and his active, not too bad, I guess. Quite a bit of control, interesting potential damage use, but it's very, very niche. There's only certain, times it's actually going to be usable. Now, his leader skill is definitely the really odd thing on this character in terms of just like it should have been a specialist skill. Like, well, I'll read it out. All alert and fast teammates get 40% HP and 40% defense. Basically, it's a defense team lead. It's exactly the same as Donnie. And he is an improved version of Donnie without a doubt. He's definitely a better character than Donnie on a defense team. But he's still a 6-star, and I would not recommend Donnie on a defense team, if I'm honest. Like, as much as he's a good leader in terms of the characters you can use with him, alert and fast, he's not going to last long on a defense team. He will get wrecked, basically. Even though his defensive stats can get pretty high, S-class characters have just got so much attack. Like, this guy might get up to like 5.5, 6k defense, might get up to like 4k HP. Prias can roll around with like 13.5k damage without any problem. And that's just going to rip Kyle to shreds. So the leader skill is very questionable. I would prefer perhaps 40% defense and a huge AP on attack. And that way you could still use him on an attack team as a leader, just sort of like a bleedish team. Or you could use him on a defense team as a leader and sacrifice one defensive stats just for a bit of AP. But like I said, I don't think 6-stars have got long-term viability, if I'm honest, on defense teams. Now, he has got that attached weapon. And as I said, they kind of missed the opportunity. They could have used the birds. Like, just having a bird fly across the screen to just peck someone's eye. I don't know. That would be kind of insane, I'm going to be honest. But it's going to be the tranquilizer gun instead. It's got 30% defense, which is nice. Now, the 15% attack upgrade slot, you can use AP on attack here if you really want to. But if you're going to use this guy with anyone else who's got AP on attack on their lead skill, he's going to mainly be used on an attack team, if I'm honest. You don't actually have to have AP on attack in that middle slot. You can go for HP, buff that HP up a little bit, and that'll be pretty good. Now, the third slot is really interesting and kind of makes me double down on my thoughts that this guy's an attack team character, in that he, when attacking, a better chance to stun the enemy for 2 turns. You have a lot more control on who this goes for. You're not a massive window on a defense team, which you would be otherwise. I really like stun on attack from the 5-star era, 6-star era. Don't get too much of it because greens are just really fallen off in the last, I don't know, 6 months to a year. They're kind of not anywhere to be seen. Every strong character that's come out is just not good on an attack team, basically. Except James, randomly out of the blue, just came out as a good strong character. But I like Kyle's weapon. I do like Kyle's weapon, and it gives you some potential thoughts on how you can build it. Depends what sort of leader you're going to be using him with. So that's Kyle. Kind of interesting character. I'm not 100% sold on him, if I'm honest. Could be good on an attack team. You're going to have damage dealers around him to get the job done. You're going to have your Prius. You're going to have your Cristas, your Raulitos. Characters that are actually going to be able to do damage, because Kyle can do none. He is probably the strongest control character in the 6-star era in terms of how long his control lasts. 3 for 3 is really strong. I mean, it reminds me of Priya back in the day, basically 2 for 2 in terms of being able to rush again by the time that Confuse runs out. And I can see that being quite devastating for defense teams. But do tell me what you think about Kyle. What do you think about Kyle and his bird? I do wonder what his bird's name is. Any info? If he is actually a character from the comics, so any info on him as a character from the comics, I'd be 100% happy to listen to. But that is the end of my video, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.